So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I thought I'd go through some sketchbooks. I've been away, and in Glasgow there is a handy little shop called CassArt. Now there is one in London, and I've been going for years. And where Trafalgar Square is, there's the art galleries, and then if you go up, I think it's up towards Charing Cross, on the corner next to the portrait gallery, there is an art shop called CassArt, and I've been going there for a long time. Now they've just opened one in Manchester, they've been one in Glasgow, I think they've got one in Leeds. They're very good quality, and they're a little bit cheaper, and they do student discount for art students and things. And the staff are really friendly, and they're all arty, so it's a really good atmosphere. They do classes, and when I went this last weekend, there was they were promoting their acrylics, and there was a lady there going through the acrylics. And we've just been given the presence of the cat. No mowing, just go to sleep, good boy. And so it's a really good art shop. I don't know if they do international shipping, but I know they do UK. But it is just around the corner from Trafalgar Square, and there's some quite good sketchbooks. So if you want to just do a little bit of sketching, I'll show you why I buy different ones. And it's taken me a long time to get to a point where I instantly know if I'm going to like a sketchbook or not. It's a kind of a personal thing. Some people like small ones, some people like big ones, some people like portraits, some people like landscape, some people like stiff binders, some people like spiral, and sometimes it may take you a bit of time to realise why you've got this really gorgeous expensive sketchbook and you're not using them. So I have leather bound ones, and I have all sorts, and my favourite are the ones that I've made myself. So that will bring me to this one. Now it was a bit of an indulgence, but it's like just a very simple Copic stitching. So I'll open this one. It was £6.95, and it says monograph sketchbook, 13mm by 18mm, 130mm, sorry. It says Office Essential for Everyday Entrepreneurs and Creative Thinkers by House Doctor. There we go. So we'll open this one up. Now I haven't looked inside it, so it might actually just be a notepad. But the reason I liked it is I recognise the Copic stitching. So in theory, it opens completely flat, and of course it does. And I love the fact that it's made of plain paper. Now it's quite thin, but it's fine for sketching, and that's another thing that's happened as well. But it's got cream, brown paper, and then cream or kind of craft paper, if you want to call it that. And I used to round edges off as well, so it's got the rounded edges, and it's just quite a nice handy sketchbook. And I'll come back to this one because something different happened this weekend, so I shall come to this. So I always buy at CassArt, I always buy these thin sketchbooks, especially if you're in London and you think I'm not going to sketch and you want to. These have got 40 sheets, and I've forgotten how much this one was, but they weren't very expensive. £3 or £4 for 3 sketchbooks. I don't actually think they were that much, but the reason I bought one is there's 3 in here. So there's one for me because I wanted to sketch, there's one for each of my 2 daughters that draw. My eldest one doesn't, but my 2 youngest ones do. So that meant a little prezzy, only a little prezzy, but they will really love that. So I bought the we call it A5 size in the UK, and I think that's 5.5 by 8 3/4. And then this one is what we call printer paper size, and that's A4. And basically an A4 is 2 A5s. Now, if you want to make a sketchbook like I do, I normally buy A4 paper, and then you can take it to pieces and fold it and make a very fat A5, so you can get twice as many pages out of an A4. And if you want an A4 sketchbook, which is what we call printer paper size, so it's the size of I think I have it. I think the Hannah Carlsons are A4. They're just a bit shorter. The one that's A4 is Colleen Thompson. That's an A4. So this one is just a bit shorter, is the Hannah Carlson, but the same width. And if you want a really nice big sketchbook, you could buy what we call A3. And A3 is double A4. So this one, so if that's 8, I haven't got a ruler with me, it's about 16, and that would be 11 3/4, and whatever an A4 is, I think it's about 8.5, it's about 16, 17. And this particular book here, what you can do is, if you had something this size, the crease would be here, so you'd have a page over, very similar to this. So what you could do is fold it over, and you would have the A5. Or if you wanted a thicker one, you would cut this one down and fold it across, and then that would give you A5. And I always like it because these pages to me it's good quality sketchbook paper. It takes a little bit of water, this one, I love it, but it's a bit thin for me. I'm a bit of a chunky kind of sketchbook girl. But if you cut this in half, and you can either just do the very figure 8 stitches, or you do the Copic stitches, you can make a really fat chunky book from one thin sketchbook, but one size down. So it's always worth looking. And one of the ladies that I watched was a lady called Sea Lemon, and she takes big sketchbooks and she makes small sketchbooks, but they're all homemade, and because they have this stitching, you don't have a sketchbook that flips up, so it's easy to draw on from the first page to the last. And I like that in a sketchbook. So you've got to kind of work out what sketchbooks are good for you. Some people like really chunky ones, some people like thin ones with just a thin pencil. So again, I've got these, and I got these A4 because, again, this is a nice size, and I decided I actually want to do a bit of sketching. So again, by 3, I can give one to each daughter, so they've got 2 little sketchbooks. Didn't cost me much more, and I really like this good quality 140 GSM, and it will take a small amount of water. And I think these are about £2.95, something like that. If you buy them individually, the Sea White one that I like, the extra wet strength, they're about £1.99 this size, and about £1 this size, this smaller size. So that was a little purchase with 2 little gifts, and it's a gift that my girls will love. They've loved it since they were little, and they're 18 and 20, and because they like to sketch, they like a good quality sketchbook, but not necessarily a chunky one and an expensive one. So I'll come back to this one last. So I've learned over the years that I have 2 favourite sizes, and I have a favourite spine. And my favourite spine is, oops, I must have caught that one. I'll have to pin it back into there. Is a spiral, because wraps right round. And I don't have this bit kind of getting in the way. This is the size of the page, so this is the size that I want to be working on. And I don't really want, you don't have to be on a flat surface to use this sketchbook. And so I like these. And this one again is the A4 because it's cut obviously half the size of an A5. And in the UK that's how we measure things. We have A5s, A4s, A5s, and half of that is an A4. So I like this size, it's quite handy, and I do have a ruler so I can measure this one. This little tiny one is 4 and 3/4, for just short of 4.5. It's actually the page that you measure. So it's 5 3/4 by 4 1/4, and it does have quite a nice hard, and I think it's plastic, I don't think it's cardboard, it could be cardboard, but it's very stiff, it's not going to bend at all, so that is brilliant. This is why I like these, and again they're only about £3.50, and again you can feel the quality, it's almost like thin card, it's not, so it will take a little bit of a ink or sketchbook or water. And this particular one is the sea white, but it isn't the extra wet strength, it's the one down from it, but it's still fine, it's still okay. And you could use this for a watercolour paper palette if you were scratching a crayon or a pencil, a water-based pencil, or a waxed water-based pencil, crayon. So you can make your paper palettes in here. I think I've done that somewhere. But again, I love the fact that it folds all the way round, and you can use this, and this is very, very kind of like a sketchboard, like a drawing board, and it doesn't matter what size you go up to. They have some very large ones, A3. You'll always get the same mechanics. So you've got the spiral, you've got the stiff drawing board at the back, and of course when you've turned it round it's doubled. That will not bend at all. And so as I say, they go up in, and I like that. So I know if I want to spend £3.50, and I think this one wasn't much more. This was a £4.95. So £4.95 for a really nice sketchbook, and we've got quite a few pages in there as well. It's a decent size, you know, as thick as your thumb. So it's a decent size sketchbook. So I always buy a couple of those. And my daughters actually quite like these as well. And again, they've realised that they're easier to use. So instead of having all this kind of going on here, you get rid of it and you've just got the space that you're working in. But it depends how you want to work. If I'm working wet, I always like an extra page on the other side. But for a sketchbook, these are quite handy, and they normally, well, behave themselves. I think I've just, and I can't actually bend it back, so they are quite stiff. I've obviously caught that in the handle of something. So the next one that I bought is this particular one. Now this was a bit more expensive, but I have bought this for my daughter when she was at uni and she loved it. So this one was £10, £9.95, but it's a very clever A5 concertina book with a case, and I bought it for a reason. Sorry about the crinkle, so we'll open this one up. And I love CassArt because they always have one open and somebody been sketching in it. So it looks like a little box. Oh, it does have a case. Oh my. Does it have a case? Oh, I didn't realise it had a case. So it does have a case that it fits in. It has a sleeve. So that's quite nice. because this particular book is a magic book. And I bought the wrong one, but it doesn't matter. I wanted the landscape one and I bought the portrait one, but actually it's probably better. So what you do with this book is you turn it over and each page is connected as a concertina. So if you can see, one page has been stuck on top of the other. One page has been stuck on top of the other. So basically it's a perpetual book. So if we turn this over, and the reason I bought it is I want to do a storyboard for a colour book. And I thought I can continuously draw across. And then when you get to this side, you can turn it over and you can perpetually draw on this side. So it's one of these magic books. Oh, hi, S. Davis. Anybody else popping in? Welcome to Benny's Designs. So this is a perpetual book. So you can draw on this side, but you can also draw on this side. So that's going to give me a lot of real estate. So I've got two projects. One is a storybook in the story of the fairies down the garden, and the other one is the sketchbook, colouring book. And I thought that would be quite useful, and I hadn't realised that it was in a box because they have one open. I might ask my daughter to get a landscape one because they have a landscape one, and I quite like the landscape one for the mushrooms. So that leads me to the last one. I don't think I'll be working that today. So this is this little one here, and it looks quite pretty. It's A5 again, which I'll put my ruler somewhere now, unhandy. But again, I like this one because it will be flat. You don't have the big rings at the side. It's the simple Copic stitching, which you might be able to see. But again, it's going to be a nice sketchbook, and because it wasn't too expensive, I'm not afraid of it. I have some lovely leather bound ones, and I'm too afraid to work in them. So I can just maybe turn that slightly. So we have that nice craft paper. And we have that nice, and this is a little bit thinner and it's a bit finer, so that would be quite okay for my drawing pen, my ink drawing pen, which I will be returning to. So I love my rotary pen, so this makes a really good sketch book for this particular pen. If your pages are too rough, this pen doesn't particularly like it because it's a very fine liner, but I love it because you can refill it. And I haven't used this for months, but I can start using it now. It looks a bit grotty there. I wipe it and I can start using it instantly, and it behaves itself. So there's no clogging, there's no nothing. I haven't looked after them as good as I should have done, but it means I've got instantly a pen. And when this Indian ink in here has dried, it's a water based, so I can draw a particular shape and then I can colour it in. So I'll probably be doing that later today. So that takes care of the sketchbooks. So then I found some goodies. Now I did have a look online beforehand because there were one or two things that I wanted. Now I have two of these Fusion 18 sketchbooks and I love them. And they were about £14 when I first bought them. This one was £10.95. And the reason I like these is because they have quite a lot of real estate. I use them for water-based medium. I wouldn't put acrylics in because acrylics will dry out, even though it says it's a stay wet. But the one thing I love about this is, and I do need a bit of a pokey tool for this, and my ruler would have been good. I do keep everything on my workstation, hopefully quite handy. So if you lift this little tray up, now if you've got ordinary fingers it will work quite well, but you have all this real estate as well. Now I've made a bit of a mess of my other one, so I thought for £10 I'm going to buy another one because I want it for two things. I want to use it for two things. In fact I could probably do with another one. I purchased these gorgeous pens, and the reason I bought them is I wanted a water brush, and I was looking at all of them. These worked out about £3 something each, and of course I wanted to do my own colour mixing. Now they didn't have ultramarine, but they did have cadmium red, lemon yellow, alizarin crimson, cadmium yellow, and they had a cerulean blue. But in order to get a nice purple, I bought the purple. I bought dioxidine violet, and I can make a French ultramarine with these two colours. But it's the purple that's the most difficult to make. So the compromise was, that doesn't have a French ultramarine, I shall get this one. So I've got my 6 colours, and these are the Winsor & Newton watercolour markers. And again, one of the girls there, she tried the Equaline and all the others, and she loved these. The pigment is fantastic. So what I want to do is to use this tray here, and because these are pure watercolours, I can reconstitute them. And I will be mixing my own colours on here for my colour books out of 6 colours. So instead of having tubes or pans, I've got 6 watercolour pens with professional watercolours in them. And again, I love mixing my own colours. So that side of the palette will have these watercolours in them. And then I should have a little box. So the first day I bought these. So I always promise to do again my Cotman. And I think they were £3. They're normally, if you can get them on offer, they're 99. So I bought again my 6 colours. And if you bought this for £10, and I think these were about a tenner. They weren't quite a tenner, I think they were £1 or £2. So £20, there isn't a colour on the planet you can't make. There's hundreds and thousands of colours, and there's quite a few colour books to go through. These will last you quite a long time. So again, I bought alizarin crimson, cadmium red, lemon yellow, cadmium yellow, cerulean blue, and French ultramarine. So that is going to give me, again, I got from 660 colours. So again, I'm going to be using this palette with these colours so that I can use just this palette with a water brush, and I can fill lots and lots and lots of colour books, and I can mix my own colours. And I spent £20, but I've got thousands of colours. These are, they said they were actually student grade, but actually I think because I've used them before, they are so well pigmented that I think they are probably almost professional. I really love them. The colours in here that you get, the pigment is the best. Apart from the Winsor & Newton professional ones, these are the second best. And for the price, they are just spectacular. And it's even postage wouldn't be much for 6 colours. and they are in 8mm little tubes, but you really don't need very much. So from these colours I shall be making purples, greens and oranges, so I'm going to have my full spectrum of colours. The other thing that I found that I want to have a look at, and I was a bit disappointed because of the size. I expected them to be about this size, but again, these are professional. I think these worked out about £3 as well, so we can't really grumble. These are Winsor & Newton professional. I'll just put my camera on auto. Winsor & Newton professional colour, and again I've got cerulean blue, and I have French ultramarine, I have my cadmium red, that's for my nice oranges, I have my Elysian crimson, and that's for all my purples and my pinks. I have my lemon yellow, which is for all my cold bright greens, and I have my cadmium yellows for my nice greens and oranges. So this is my best set. So if you look at a particular company that you like, these are the only colours, as long as they're mixable, so oils, acrylics, watercolours, you can get every colour on the planet from these 6 colours. And I don't think they're kind of very waxy, they are almost like pure colour. So, and they do chip, so you've got to be careful with them. But I did think for that, even for that price, for a professional watercolour, when you put them next to a pan, then these are really, really, really good quality, and they are good. Again, I may do different things with these, haven't decided yet. But I like the fact that I've got a professional colour, I've got lots and lots of pigment in there, and it wasn't too expensive, and I can still mix my own colours. They do them in about 30 colours, but I like to mix my own. Just see if I can focus everything a bit. So I have watercolours, I have tubed watercolours, I have brush watercolours, and I didn't break the bank with these. As I say, I think these are £3 or £4. At CassArt these are £3 or £4. I think it's £20 or £30 for a set of 6. But the reason I didn't get the set is it didn't have the colours in that I wanted. So sometimes you can look at a set and you won't get every colour if you buy a limited palette. Now, I wouldn't call this a limited palette because there isn't any colours I can't make. I do have a video of lemon yellow, cerulean blue and Elysian crimson, and they're what I call the printer ink colours. So your printer ink is a very, very bright yellow, a very, very bright sky cold blue, and a very pinky red. These are your printer inks, and if you think your printer can make any colour, it does it from these colours. So the purples are a bit more difficult to use and work, and my French ultramarine wasn't brilliant. So I always say 6 colours is the best. You want 2 primary yellows, 2 primary reds and 2 primary blues, and then your colour mixing is easy, because we want it to be easy, but it's nice to do on your own. So they did find this little box for me. So I kind of liked the fact that I'd managed to get some quite nice colours. My 6 favourite colours for colour mixing in 3 different water-based mediums or watercolours. One is in a brush, one is in a tube, and one is in a stick. But I've been looking at inks, and I thought I would buy, again I think these were £3 or £4, these are £3 something each. So again I've bought a bright blue, a bright pink, a bright yellow, and then they had an ultramarine, and because this was a difficult one to do, so again I spent just over £10 on these. But I've got the inks to play with, and again mixed colours. Now these are very strong. These will go through a colour book unless you water them down, because they're Winsor & Newton very good quality ink. But again I've got my very cold yellows. So I've got one yellow, it's a canary yellow. What I can do is I can make an orange with the carmine, and then I can put more yellow in it to make a lighter orange and a cadmium yellow, and I can put more red in it to make a cadmium red and a vermilion. And then I've got the pinks, and then I can mix these two to get the purples, and I can mix these two to get greens, and I can mix these two blues to get other blues, like a cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is in between a bright blue and a purple blue. Windsor blue is another one, royal blue is another one. And then of course I've got these two colours for all the greens, but I've also got this blue and this for other greens. So I've got lots and lots of greens as well, because I've got two blues. So from these four colours there's quite a lot I can make. So again, tight Yorkshire lass, spent just over a tenner, but I've got another selection of colours made with inks for my colour books. Have you got any questions? They are, yes. The art bars were professional and they were a bit crumblier, but Winsor & Newton, I like the Derwent art bars, but they don't make them anymore. But the Winsor & Newton, when they make a professional watercolour, they do. And again, the Cotman ones are fantastic. So that's the water-based medium that I bought for my colour books, because I'm still trying to work out what I want to work in the Inky Butterfly. If I'd have had the energy, I would have gone back and bought another one, because they're a tenner. So you can put gouache in here, you can put watercolours, you can put your neos, you can scratch the neos on here and leave those in. You can scrape the watercolour pencil from the Derwent into here, mix it with water, and it becomes a watercolour. And then it will dry. So you've got any kind of water-based medium in a pencil or a crayon will go in here, as well as the tubes. So I've got 6 tubes, but I'm going to get a nice palette of the cold yellows, the warm yellows, the reds, the cadmium reds, orangey reds, then we've got the pinks, pinky reds, purples, purple blues, and then we've got some greens. So it's quite a nice palette mix, this. And then you've got this space to mix again all those colours together. But instead of buying 20 tubes, we've bought 4. And we can still fill these with 4. I've done it before. You can have this really nice expanse of colour that will last a long time. And with the added removable glass tray, you know, you can wipe it. And I like the fact it stays wet, but it doesn't make it much difference to me. I just like the fact that it locks. That's what I kind of like about it. And it's not a bad size either. It's not a bad size. So I'll pop that down somewhere handy. So that brings me back to drawing. So, oh, and it doesn't. I did buy, again, £10.95. I think I've seen them for £8. The set of 3 Derwent watercolour brushes. And the reason I like this one is the fine one from Derwent is the finest, driest one I've found. I really do like it. When you twist it on a baby wipe, and just make it barely damp, it will keep and it won't flood your pages on your colour books. So I love that. It's one of my favourites. So again, I've got 2 that I've used. This is a spare one. And then on my travels, I found, I have the Pilot Parallel pens, and I bought a set of 3. And of course, being a bit obsessive, this is a 6mm one, and I haven't got that one, and that was £12.95. So now I have the full set of Italic pens, and these pens are quite spectacular because you put the pen nib on the page and you could go up and down, sideways and round. And normally with an Italic pen you have to kind of take it off and put it back on, and it, or if it will go forwards it won't go backwards. This particular parallel pen will go in any direction. And the only thing I didn't like about it is it was a refill with a cartridge, but I have found my way around that. And model railway shows have they sell syringes of different sizes, and they sell the needles, but these needles are really big. If I put that onto here, so for goodness sake, don't buy an ordinary syringe. They're only, this was 49p, the syringes are about 80p. So if I do this, you can see you're not going to prick yourself. But what it allows you to do is, in most, not all, but in most cartridges, and it's very messy, so you may want to do it outside because ink is a terrible thing. If you buy your bottles of ink, you can slide this down the side of the little flap, and you can squeeze the ink out of the syringe and fill your cartridges up. And then you obviously straight away, because it's ink, you clean them. I don't think I've got one handy. I may find one a bit later, but I haven't got one. I don't think I've got one handy because I normally keep them with the inks. Yeah, I don't have one handy. I did buy a little syringe, I think, for 50p, but again at model shows. And the other thing I bought at model shows is these little pipettes. And the reason I bought these is there's 5 in this pack for 60p. And I bought them because they will go in the ink bottles. So I've got one pipette that will have the same colour in it. I won't bother washing it out, I don't think. So that was my little purchase at the model show. So this will do 2 things. It will refill your inks. These pipettes are maybe a little bit too big to pass down the side, but there's always a little flap on there. I have done a video, I think, of actually refilling them because it's quite easy. And as a tight Yorkshire lass, you know, I just object to buying expensive ink cartridges. And the other thing is, some of them are not permanent. So I actually fill them with my Rotring ink. I have a red, I think I have a blue and a black and a white. And so I can fill these colours in. And of course, if I put the blue and the red together, I can make a brown. So I've got a sepia. So I can make my own colours. I can draw with them. When they're dried, I can put a watercolour over them. So again, as a tight Yorkshire lass, I kind of like that idea. Oh, there's that little tray to go in that. In there. So I was on my travels. Now I did buy the blades, but I bought these for my daughter. These go in the scalpels because my daughter sharpens. I've taught her to sharpen a pencil. I had to buy an eraser from the model shop. It broke my heart because there were so many nicer ones at the CassArt, but I couldn't get back there. So I just had to buy these, 75p. But it worked okay. It was all right. I bought 2, and I'll show why later. So I saw this, and and it's a Creator Colour graphic lead pencil, 5 and 6 millimeter. And I thought, ooh, wow, I don't use pencils anymore, but that looked quite interesting. And it's 2B. And I asked them, and I said, what does that go in? How do you use that? And they gave me this. And I thought, ooh, that's quite chunky. I might be able to hold that. And it's quite nice to hold. And this is again from Creator Colour. They're not the supposed leads, but they do fit 6 or 7 millimeters. And it has a mechanical edge to it, and it does have a date on. I think it said when I looked. It says Austria, and it does say they've been making this pencil for a long time. It's a bit difficult for me to do, but if you push that down and you I'll put a pointed one in. So I thought I have to have one of these. So I bought one of these. I think there was £6 for the leads, and I think this was about £6 or £8. And then I saw this one, and of course then they showed me this one, and this one is Faber-Castell, and these are 2 millimeters, and they're in this pen here. So I thought, well, with this one and this one, I could start to sketch again. So again, I think these, this is the it's called the Ecologic pencil, and that's what this one is. And it takes 6 and 5 millimeter pencils. So again, I did buy the blades to sharpen them, but I didn't manage to do that because all I did was I just used the ones that weren't sharpened. So I really got kind of inspired by a product, and normally it's an idea that you get inspired from, but this was the opposite. This particular, oh, they were £6.50 the refills, and I think the pen, we'll get them back in there. My hands are a bit dud at the moment, so I thought I will try this. So because I was sitting all day, I decided that I was inspired to use pencil. So I'll just pop those on there because it didn't work as an ordinary pencil. And I'm not sure if it will show. So I sat and I did something that I've been wanting to do for a while, but it gave me the opportunity to work almost like charcoal. This big pencil gave me darks and lights, and I bought the eraser to kind of put highlights on things, and it made me want to draw again with a pencil. And my little mushrooms kind of had a completely different take. Now again, I forgot to show this big one. This is an A3 sketchbook. It's going to show, is it? Is it going to show A3? But again, it's got that spiral, and it has the really strong back. So it was really handy and easy to use. So it's almost as big as my tray is this. But it allowed me to work in pencil, which I thought was pretty cool. So I've been messing about with almost a graphite pencil, very 2B, a very nice pencil that gives you quite a big difference. So I was inspired to change from line drawing to pencils by seeing a pencil, which you can sometimes be inspired by a particular idea or a thought or an image, or you can be inspired by a piece of art equipment. And I really love my mushrooms. I took them completely in a different direction as a grayscale, and it worked really well to colour, and so I kind of like the grayscale. So that was the inspiration to buy the other colour book, to do a grayscale colour book. And it all turned out because I found a very large, very simple pencil that was easy to use. So I've got my little blackberries on the top there. So sometimes you can be inspired by a sketchbook, a paper, or you can be inspired by a new art product. And it doesn't always necessarily mean that you use it as you're supposed to use it. So the inks I will be using watered down in a colour book. I don't think these are particularly for colour books, but these will be used in a watered down, really beautiful watercolour effect in a colour book. The tubes of paint, they will be used in a colour book, and my little tiny beautiful sticks of pure colour. I don't know how it tells you how many grams there are. But, you know, if you think that these were £3 something each, I don't think they were £4, they were 3.50, 3.60 pence each. The size of them compared to a pan, and this is pure watercolour, kind of really inspired me to get some really nice colours out of there. So that's my inky watercolour and sketchbook. And I don't know what to do with the pencils now. So that was my mini haul, or rather a large haul. And because I bought lots of different things, it did add up. But obviously you may just want the inks, or you may just want something. Start with something that you really fancy. Buy 6 of them, play with the colours, and if you love them, then you can buy more of them. But you might buy them and think, oh, well, they're really not for me, or the other ones are easier, or I don't want those colours. Then you can change things. But if you buy 100 of one thing, then you feel a little bit obliged to use them. But by just buying 6, you've still got your colour range, and they're still practical to use, but you haven't kind of broken the bank. And that's kind of my way of shopping. So that's my mini haul from Glasgow at CassArt. Thank you for watching.